Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to MindShifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rachma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce.
To the brightness within you and the truth that is rooted within me.
Hi, and welcome to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor. That's Dr. Michael Ryce. And he will join us here in a little while, but we are beginning our 9-day intensive here at Heartland. And we have 30 people on property. It's awesome. It's going to be a powerful experience. We just kind of did introductions and what everybody was expecting and all of that last night. And everybody got here and got settled in. It's very hot today. It's already up in the 90s. And so we're just going to see about cranking up the internal heat, working with their process. We were talking about the Aramaic term of forgiveness, which is different from our culture. Our culture teaches us to let another person off the hook for what we're feeling inside. So if you and I interact and I become angry and I say I forgive you, that does nothing to address my anger. So what we're talking about is going inside and removing my anger or grief or pain or sadness or whatever doesn't belong. And, you know, they've proven that when we think thoughts, it actually becomes our physiology. So it is our chemistry. We carry around those energies physically. It becomes our diseases. And so this is about healing mind, body, spirit, soul, everything. It's all connected, all interconnected. I want to welcome Dr. Tim. I see that he is on the show. Michael will be with us shortly. How are you doing, Tim?
Doing very well, thank you. Delighted to hear that you're so full of eager people and getting started on the intensive and looking forward to joining you a little over a week.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and it's, you know, you've been in intensives before, so you've seen how it works, that there's always like a central theme that it's like half the group is working on the same thing, and this one is no different. So it looks like hostility and fear is their major challenges, and so it should be really phenomenal. And that's what I've been facing too, so I'm part of that collective majority.
That sounds great.
And we were also talking about how it's amazing that, you know, there's so many people that have been on the show regularly, and so we kind of get to know each other's voice, their names. You know, everybody knows who Dr. Kim is, and, you know, Julie from Oregon's here, Richard, who we've done several worksheets with. Excuse me. So there's a bunch of people that are regulars on the radio show that are actually here with us this week, so that's phenomenal too.
Great.
So we do have a caller, but do you have anything that you would like to share before we go to our caller?
No, things are just coasting along here. Let's see what the caller has to say.
All right. So we have area code 909. You're on the air.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, and hello. How are you? This is a wonderful show. Do you want a question from me or what's going on right now that I need to address and forgive in my life?
Absolutely. Whatever you would like to address, and let's see what we can do to help you.
Okay.
Can you give us a name?
Oh, sure. Carol, hi.
Did you say Carol?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Welcome, Carol.
Well, thank you. What's going on is I've been working towards a relationship, and it's a kind of a destiny type thing. And there's it's been wonderful, and I've had to do a lot of clearing and a lot of forgiving and a lot of moving out of the past of my life and into the present moment. But there's this one issue that still, I just realized today is still there. and it revolves around another person who I really do not think is somebody I have to worry about, but I still have these issues coming up of my fears and what am I thinking, what am I doing, and I need to, there's a part of me that probably this reason I'm being faced with this at this time, because this is what I need to let go of. And, it could come from a past life, who knows what, and then in this lifetime we just create an environment that brings up these emotions that we still need to heal. And am I making sense to you, or am I rambling? Hello?
Yes, we're still here.
Hello?
Yes, Carol, I can hear you.
Okay.
My question is, when you talk about forgiveness, are you familiar with the forgiveness tool that Dr. Ryce teaches and makes available on his website?
I'm not sure. When I talk about forgiveness, I talk about in the big picture there's nothing to forgive, because in the big picture all is what it is, and anything that comes up that pushes our buttons is just for us to learn from. So that's the big picture of forgiveness. We have to be careful we don't go into, I forgive you because I am greater than you, et cetera, et cetera.
That's similar to this process, but there's an actual tool from the ancient Aramaic that's available. It's a technology that allows us to go in and actually remove from within our memories and our experience and the realities we create moment to moment, and those that we've inherited from our ancestors, any reality that leaves us feeling any form of hostility or fear.
Okay.
And so what you were talking about in this relationship is that you have fear that's getting stirred up inside of you as you interact with this relationship.
Yes.
So the advice would be that you go and pick up the tool of forgiveness and dismantle the fear from within you.
Okay.
That you dismantle the thoughts, you dismantle the memories, you dismantle the judgments against yourself and others that you're holding on to, which are the only thing that can generate the emotion of fear within you.
Okay. True.
And that tool is available on the website, www.whyagain.com. Whyagain.com.
Oh, again. Okay.
Why again? And it's taken from the topic of Dr. Rice's book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again?
I know. I am so far on my spiritual path, but this keeps coming up. What am I doing? That's very good.
And so if you go to that website, on the right-hand side, about 6 links down, there's a link that says Download Worksheets. And when you click on that link, it'll take you to a page where the first link is he lets you download his entire book for reading, but he also lets you download on that page Chapter 24 of his book that explains the worksheet process, and then a sample worksheet. And then there are 5 audio downloads where it's an hour or a little bit less than an hour of radio shows where Dr. Ryce has worked with people to actually work through the worksheet process on real live issues.
Okay.
And so there's all the explanation you would ever need to get started on using that tool.
Very good. Wonderful. Well, thank you. Isn't it amazing how things come to us when we need them?
It is. Where are you calling from?
California.
Where in California?
The San Diego area.
Okay.
San Diego.
909 is San Diego.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
We're actually going to be in your area this next fall and winter, so keep an eye on the website, too, for if we're in your area. Or you can email me your information. We'll put you in the database. What we do is usually send out an email blast to people saying, here's our schedule, where we're going to be, and that way you can see us in person. Our travel workshops are free.
Great. Very good. Well, thank you very much.
So
I
this
do
sounds
appreciate it.
You're welcome. This sounds like a real good fit for the work you've already been doing, because you're recognizing what you're feeling is coming from within you, and the outside events and the people you're interacting with are only triggering what's already in there.
Right.
And so here is a very specific tool, a very specific technology for dismantling those realities that we hold within us and being able to have more direct, easy, constant access to our awareness of our source as the energy of love.
Right.
And restoring ourselves to that awareness of our true nature, and then being able to live from that more freely day to day.
Yes, being able to move forward with it. Very good. Thank you. I do appreciate this. And I will, as soon as I get home, I will go on my computer and start working through this, because this is why it's here, and I need to do it. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for the call.
All right. Have a good day.
You
Bye-bye.
too.
I may listen for a while.
Awesome.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
Anybody else there, Jeanie?
No, we don't have any other callers right now. There's several people out on the switchboard, but they're just listening. And chat room, nobody's asking any questions.
So what do we have going at the intensive, or what kinds of issues have raised their heads? Could you clarify what the themes were? It was hostility and what?
Fear. So it fits perfectly with Carol calling in. And so it's, that most people, have, actually one lady shared that, she had been with a group, a women's group, and had actually made the statement, that she didn't have any fear. And then she realized everything, just happened in her life and brought all of it up for her to look at, and that she just wanted peace in her life. And so she wanted to work through, getting rid of that fear. And that seemed to be a reoccurring, as, like I said, there were 30 people here, and I know at least 12 people that was their issue. And, of course, they just did the evaluation last night, and so that will show up, today when we do our first big class will be right after the show's over. And we'll go over the evaluations, and it looks at where people can get the most work. For those of you who have never been in an intensive, it's questions that addresses all the areas of love of others, love of self, peace, laws of living, fear, hostility, mind goal management, stress. So a whole lot of issues, and it shows where you can get this work done, what area of your life, and it's based on how you answer the questions. And so you can take the evaluation different times of your life when different things are going on, you're going to answer them differently because different brain cells are firing. And so we're going to do that today, and that will give people assignments of what to work towards, and we will see more greatly pop up. They're number one, but just in the introductions last night, that was what people felt like they needed to work on in this next 9 days.
Well, that's kind of interesting, and I'm sure for a lot of people who haven't been around this work for a while, to talk about getting excited that we're here, and the theme is hostility and fear. How can you get excited about the theme being hostility and fear? And the answer is, you don't get excited about having hostility and fear. You get excited about being in a place where it's going to be safe to explore that with an understanding of what creates it and with specific tools for dismantling it. That's what's exciting.
Right. And like for myself, I'll just speak for myself. It's the last month I have had to face different situations in my life that have brought my fear full face. I mean, just, and I would think, I've been doing this work, I ought to have this one handled. But it's to the next level, to the deeper issues, and I would love to be able to get rid of that so that I can stand regardless of what's going on in my world and not have my heart beating out of my chest and have a headache from the stress and shaking from the fear and all of those things. I mean, it's not mentally and emotionally, physically. I mean, it's like the things that my body does. I told Michael, I said, I know in my head, okay, I need to cancel these goals and I need to let go of my need for this to go a certain way and all of this. But I said, my body is not responding with what I'm saying in my head, because I was having all these physical issues that were coming about because I was carrying the fear. So being able to let that go is going to be such a relief.
Well, and as you know, as you just said, it's a process, and as you go at it this time, you'll get through another layer, and you'll reach a new level of vitality and a new level of ability to stand in the face of those things that would normally produce these physical sensations. And it's entirely possible that a month or a year or 10 years later, it'll come up again. And
right.
we're tempted with our conditioning and our logical mind to say, oh, this means that all that stuff I did at the intensive didn't work. But what it really means is that we just came in touch with a different layer, a different level, a deeper level, or a different set of factors that could stimulate it. And we clear those out, and then we broaden the range of places and people and situations we can interact with without having the fear. So it is a process. It's not a flip the switch and it's done.
Right. And it's and each time it seems like it gets a little easier. I mean, at the moment when it's in your face, it's not so easy. But then, you know, all of a sudden something will happen and it'll be like, oh, I would have had a different reaction towards that, you know, and now I don't. So you can see even little steps where you've made improvement, and that's awesome.
Yep, and that's the value of it. When you can start to see and put together those successes, and stop the conscious mind that wants to say, oh, this isn't working, or oh, this is too much work, and look back with a broader perspective, and you start to realize, oh my gosh, this is the first time I've been this upset in 6 years. Then something's really working. Because I used to be this upset, 6 times a week.
Right, or that you have that upset come up, and whereas it may take hours, and then the next time it comes up, it only takes just a few minutes to get over it or to get reconnected, and so it's little things like that you can see that there's definitely been movement. And it's
right.
Awesome.
It's one of the keys there, from my perspective, is that we need to catch ourselves in judgment. As soon as we realize we're judging ourselves or somebody else, we have to call a timeout and stop the car. Because this is like driving down the mountain road at night with your headlights out. If I'm judging somebody, it means I'm hiding some form of hostility or fear within myself, and that's what's creating, that's the filter that's driving my perceptions in the moment, and that's not safe. That's when I end up doing things that I regret. So if I judge myself and say, oh, why am I getting so angry? Geez, this isn't working. In that moment, I need to stop and say, okay, wait a minute. This is not, I'm in the bad space. I'm looking through the glass darkly. I'm not seeing things clearly.
Right. So if any of this conversation seems to hit home with anyone out there, call in and give us your comments or your questions. We'd love to hear from you. Our call-in number is 646-200-4169, and then press 1, and that puts you in queue to talk. And speaking of judging, Lisa's in the chat room, and she says, I've been judging my weight and appearance recently very harshly. And, we do judge ourselves harder, usually, from what I've experienced anyway, more so than we do other people, and definitely harder than other people seem to judge us.
Well, that's true, and I like what Michael has said a couple times. I'm not sure what the source is, but there's the idea that a minor irritation hides a deep rage. So it's really important to get in the frame of realizing where I'm judging even just a little bit. And if I'm judging myself just a little bit, I shouldn't let that go. If I'm really interested in moving to that place where I can stay consciously focused on my true nature as love, I need to be vigilant and persistent and catch those times when I'm even a little bit judging myself harshly, because it hides a deeper level of dissatisfaction, of anger, of fear, and it's possible, and we want people to know, it is possible to undo that. It's not that fear is bad or anger is bad or sadness or hurt is bad. It's simply that these are the alarm systems that are in place. The Creator has put them here to let us know when we're making a mistake, when we internally are making a mistake. And the difficulty is that the culture has trained us to believe when I have fear or pain or anger or sadness, it means somebody else has made a mistake. It means the world is wrong. It means I'm a victim of circumstances. And it's the alarm system, but not an alarm system to tell me something's wrong in the outside world. It's my alarm system to tell me something's wrong in my internal thought process, in the realities I've created and I'm holding on to.
Exactly. And Peacemaker in the chat room just said, and it's, really a good thing, too, just to be able to catch that, to be able to take that notice that, hey, this is what I'm doing. That's a step towards healing in itself.
Absolutely. It's a multi-step process that, it begins with awareness. And like all true spiritual journeys, it ends where it begins. So you come back around to new levels of awareness. But you also have to have an understanding of how the system works, and then you have to have tools that actually help you make progress to either open yourself to be transformed or to interact with a higher order of yourself or to do the work internally to remove what doesn't belong there, so that you can become aware that you always were the love you were looking for. In the Way of Mastery, it says, don't ever go looking for love from another person, for a situation, from a lover, from a family member. Don't ever go looking for it. At the same time, it's highly recommended that you extend the love that you are in every relationship, with every person, place and thing. When we come to realize that we are the energy of love and we're meant to extend that and offer that in our relationships, that's when we have the experience of the love that we long for.
So Dr. Tim, are you saying that we've been taught to be looking for love in all the wrong places?
Exactly. Are you going to break into song?
Oh, my God.
Is this Dr. Ryce?
Somebody was on track, weren't they?
Somebody was. Somebody was getting inspired.
Awesome.
Well, good afternoon.
It is. Good afternoon, sir. How do you be?
I'm doing well, and you?
Good. Well, we're just rocking here. We had 30 people sit down. Anybody who's not here, wasn't here last night, isn't here today, is missing the most awesome food that you can imagine. I mean, it is just, I don't know what else to say except fabulous. And if you're missing it, well, we'll have a bite for you, because it's just beyond, it's out of this world. The number of dishes, the food that's being served is just out of this world. So we're having fun. I actually just went down and got Jeanie and I a plate. That's why she started the show. We had just gone to town to get a truckload of food for our intensive. We're heading into day 2 of Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And all things moving forward.
It sounds delightful.
It is. And so we had the conversation about a place safe for human life on the earth, putting an end to war.
Nope, we haven't been there yet.
Oh, okay. Well, let's add that one in the puzzle then, because it's interesting. There was someone, I'm not sure if I mentioned this the last couple of days, but there was someone at one of my workshops back several years ago. I've never been into Nostradamus, but they came up afterward when they heard that our center was called Heartland, and apparently Nostradamus has a quatrain that says that the warriors would come to Heartland to heal. And so here we are. We've got about 30 people on the property, and 3 of them are combat veterans, and just stepping in to do their work and moving through and teaching forgiveness. So it's just fabulous. And I see Heartland moving more and more in that direction. So maybe Nostradamus was on track if that quatrain is accurate. I've never been into Nostradamus and looked it up, but but we've got two very recent combat vets from the Middle East, and then, of course, David, who runs the center from Vietnam, and lots of layers moving out and lots of stimulus for everybody who's been touched by war, which is everybody. And one of the reasons why we're looking to reverse this, looking for love in all the wrong places and finding it the only place that it is, the only place you can experience it, and that's within you. And of course, how do you experience what's within you except by removing what blocks what's within you? And so that's what we're here to support you in. And the main tool for doing that is called forgiveness. We live in a culture, of course, that tells us forgiveness is about me letting you off the hook for the terrible pain I'm having inside of me, which, of course, does nothing to change the root of the terrible pain that's happening inside of me. And if I never learn to change that, to hit the delete key and remove that, which is called forgiveness, then I get to do the title of my book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? Or some people will say, why are they doing this to me again, et cetera, et cetera. Nobody can do it to you, but if it's in you, there's going to be a whole procession of people. And what we're inviting you to do is to pick up and use the forgiveness process. It's called reality management on our website. If you go to www.whyagain.com, soon to become .org, that's in process. It'll probably happen mid-August, later August sometime, the full changeover. You can check out the .org site. It's awesome. The two people who are helping and working with that, who are designing it and actually teaching Jeanie how to administer it and all that kind of neat stuff, are here at the intensive. And on the right-hand side of the .com site, about 6 links down, you'll see a link that says Download Worksheets. On the .org site, it's going to be up near the top. Under that link, you'll see several links that will give you the whole forgiveness story. Chapter 24 from my book, the 7-step, the latest worksheet process, and 5 radio shows with a step-by-step. Here's how you walk through the forgiveness process. Here's how you remove from your structure what never belonged in your structure. So we're here to support you in learning that. We would love for you to download that worksheet, start putting the pen to the paper, be part of the team that changed the world. Here's how you'll do it. When you remove the hostility and fear from you, you are one less contributor to the hostility and fear in the world. 2,000 years ago, a man named Yeshua said, a little leavening leavens the whole loaf. I don't think he was talking about bread. He was talking about we humans. It's going to take a very small amount of human life to change the whole planet. In fact, one of my early mentors used to say, and this goes back, almost a half a century ago when I was 2, used to say that it would take 8 people on the planet, 8 actual humans. And our definition of a human is hold a newborn child, so you know what it is. 8 of those on the planet, alive, aware, conscious, and moving in the direction of healing the planet to change the whole planetary dynamic. That is, that through their physiology, there's nothing unlike that active presence of love. And that's what's going to bring a critical mass shift. So we're asking you to be part of the team that changed the world by being part of that shift, by moving every hostility or fear out of your structure and moving into that active, awesome presence of love that you are. And thereby, we'll put an end to war. We're going to change the whole game on the planet. So we're here to support that in you, and as you start to work with that worksheet, if you have any questions or thoughts, you know, we are so blessed to have the team that we have. We've got David, we've got Tim, we've got Jeanie, there's me, and all the others who tap into the show and call into the show who are working with the tools, sharing their experience. You can go back. There's several hundred shows in the archives. Start listening, build a brain cell, and as you do, become part of the team that changed the world. And see this space as one word safe for human life to show up, where we actually function as human beings. And instead of blaming somebody else for what we're feeling, we go inside ourselves, take responsibility, and move through it. So that's what we're here to do. And we're delighted you're here to do it with us. You have any other thoughts, Dr. Tim?
Well, we had a call yesterday after you left the show from a Dr. Ema Sarah, and she's on Blog Talk Radio. She had called in last week, and she was talking about forgiveness in a way that sounded like the pardoning. And so I gave her a little of a description of the difference between the definition we're using and the definition for pardoning. And then she was asking about where do we get this anger, fear, sadness if it's all inside of us? And what about children that are the victims of incest? So I was trying to address that from a perspective of trying to understand that the person that perpetrates incest on someone literally began as this perfect little innocent bundle of creative energy and love. And the only way they could get to the point where they could do something that horrific and painful to a child is if the world had put its thumbprints on them. And so we were talking about what it takes for us as people to experience news of a horrible thing like incest or the theater shooting in Colorado and still stand in the space of love. And how it takes the awareness of how the system works and the focus internally so that when I realize I'm getting angry or scared or feeling bitter or hopeless when a tragedy happens and it gets blasted all over the news, and that my work is about going inside myself in that moment to remove anything that's less than love so I don't keep radiating out the anger and the bitterness and the helplessness, which then adds to the atmosphere and resonates in those people who might be closer to the edge of their limit of feeling angry and fearful and bitterness and hopelessness. So, that to me that kind of fits in with the tool Jeanie was saying, or the talk we were having earlier. Jeanie was saying that the theme so far at the workshop is hostility and fear. And how can you get excited about being in a place where the theme for the day is hostility and fear? And I think the only answer is because you're in a place that has that as the theme, where people know how the system works, and it's a loving, supportive atmosphere, and there are tools for removing the hostility and fear. So maybe you want to talk about that energetic perspective.
Yeah, actually, as you're speaking, kind of a new analogy comes to mind for me. And let's imagine that we have this really sweet, wonderful family that's sitting watching a wonderful television show, and we love it, and it's awesome, and they're just really having fun watching this TV show. And let's imagine that somebody pulls onto the property with a car that's poorly tuned. And the poorly tuned car sets up an interference pattern that so destroys the signal that the family who's watching this wonderful movie can hardly see the picture. It's snowy, it's flipping around, the sound is poor. They can just hear it, and but they can hear it and they can see it, so they're still watching, but they're all disappointed. Let's imagine that we put out a call, an alert to the planet. This is like our news piece that says terrible thing happened in Colorado, which it did. And let's imagine that we put that call out to all the neighborhood, and all of the neighbors get in their cars and they drive over to see what they can do. And they all pull into the driveway of the house. So we now have 100 cars, and all 101 cars are poorly tuned. And the neighbors come in, and they say to the person who's driving the car that's interfering with the television set, "Why, you terrible, you just look at what you've done. You've ruined this family's evening. You are just," and berate him. Meanwhile, every car that pulls in the driveway is adding more interference, making the picture worse. They've done nothing whatsoever to help the situation by bringing their interference patterns to the problem. There's a problem. But bringing an interference pattern to the problem does not help solve the problem. The world has not, and you make a very important point of we need to know how the system works. In the ancient teachings, they said, for a lack of knowledge, my people are destroyed. So coming to a problem with a problem just amplifies and expands the problem. Now, imagine that we've got somebody who has, and I know this because I used to work in the electronics field, has a a device on their car that gets rid of this interference pattern, and let's imagine that it goes an extra mile, and it not only dampens the interference pattern from their car, but it sets out a certain amount of signal that dampens the signal from any other car. So let's see one neighbor coming into the parking lot. We've now got 101 cars with this interference pattern, 100 people complaining to the person who's doing it, and we bring one neighbor in who has this damping device that not only removes the interference pattern from their car, but impacts and weakens the interference pattern from the 101 other cars. And let's imagine we get a second neighbor with the same device, and a third, and a fourth, and a fifth, and a sixth. And then let's imagine that with that pattern changing, each one sitting in the parking lot says, gee, how do I get one of those? I'd like one of those because I'm realizing I'm part of the problem. Oh, here you are. Here's a damper for that. Here's a way to remove that interference pattern. It's called forgiveness. And so let's imagine one by one by one, we hand this device to the 101 people who are in the parking lot. And one by one, they put it on their car, the interference pattern goes away, and there comes a critical mass shift. The guy who originally had the horrible interference pattern is still in horrible interference. But now we've got 30 cars on the lot with this device that dampens the interference pattern, and that's critical mass. So now there's enough of a shift that the interference pattern has disappeared. And all of a sudden, the family is back to enjoying and watching their television show. To me, that would be a perfect analogy for what we're doing. So we're in the space here at Heartland where we invite. Now, one of the first things I said last night as we started the intensive, and I do this with every intensive, is everybody you have never dealt with in your life, we invited to come and be here, and they all agreed to show up. In other words, every interference pattern in your life that could possibly come is going to show up in this intensive. And it's going to rock. It's going to open that part up in you, and there's going to be all this interference inside of you, your rage, your grief, your hate, your vengeance, your pain, your fear. But guess what? We've been building this space for 23 years to dampen that. We've been building the tools and the understanding of the tools and been bringing people to this place for years. Right now, let's see, we've got, if I look at the list, I don't have it in front of me. Just give me 1 second here. As I look at the list, I think we've got about, maybe out of the 30 people that here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We've got at least a dozen people who have been early adopters of this work, who took it on and said, I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to do my work. And so as Charlie gets the look from Mary, who now represents the realities he holds from his former wife and that horrible divorce they went through, and Mary gives him the look and Charlie's rage opens that he has not resolved, guess what? There are a dozen people here holding the space that are the space of love that helps to burn off Charlie's pain. And so as a result of Mary giving Charlie the look and his rage flaring up to the max, and 12 people here holding the space, having done their work and recognizing, Charlie, this is your rage. We're here to support you through letting go of it. And guess what happens? Charlie's rage in the presence of all of that awesome active love dissolves and disappears. And Charlie heals. That's what we're here to do. That's the idea of the intensive. The invitation is to come and to bring whatever baggage you've got with the willingness to unload it and the willingness to acquire tools and to understand how the structure works, how the system works. So that, to me, would be kind of a way to explain it and understand it perhaps in a new way. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Michael?
Yes, sweetie.
We don't have anybody with a question or anything, except there was a comment in the chat room, and I just felt like, especially since here at the intensives, one of the concentrations we do is on food that we eat. And someone had responded to Lisa. She had mentioned earlier that she was really downing herself, judging her weight and her appearance and everything. And someone else popped in and said that they had been diagnosed with several health problems. They were in the same place about their weight. One of their health problems was high cholesterol, and they talked about making better choices with food and also doing yoga. And I had just suggested, because they talked about losing weight, and I said, change your words instead of losing it, release it, because losing something, you want to find it, whereas releasing it, you do it on purpose. But then also I just wanted to mention...
Release your weight and trim your body.
Right. And I started typing, and I'll just go ahead and say it, and then I'll finish typing it too. But at one point in time, before I met Michael and began doing this work, I was on high cholesterol medicine, and it was still like 275 or something like that on medication. I began doing this work and looking at doing the forgiveness worksheets on what was it I was trying to protect myself from, because excess weight is usually linked to trying to add a barrier or a protection for something. So I was doing my work on what was it that, I was trying to protect myself from. And then I also changed my diet, which is a very good point, tunnel vision. But one of the things that we did is we did a 40-day fast, and that was doing juices. It wasn't just water, but it was doing different juices and staying as natural as we could with it, but we were on the road, so we did a lot of Bold Health juices. After that 40 days, and I had come off of the medication totally, was doing my work internally, physically, everything, and went back and had my blood checked, and it was 130 off of medication. And so, the medication is it can help in some situations, in a crisis situation, but it's not going to take care of the issue. You have to look inside, and doing physical things, the food and the exercise are definitely important, but you also have to look inside.
Absolutely. I was speaking to a young man this morning who's a early high school football player. He's got high blood pressure. So we talked about what he's doing with, his French fries, his fried chicken or what have you, his junk food, and what he's doing to his arteries. And he's comes from a family system with lots of rage in it. A dad who spent some time in prison, a grandfather who spent a lot of time in prison, alcohol, drugs in the family history. And, of course, most of the world will say, well, we don't know what the cause of any of this is. Excuse me. We know precisely what the cause of it is. But we don't want to change. We want to hang out and do all the same old stuff, all the habits of the culture. There's actually one line in the Lord's Prayer that can be properly translated as, release us from our habit mind. Get us out of this pattern. And so, as you do your work, and one of the ideas of the total fresh and raw dietary regimen that we do is that we do a high vitality, high enzyme content food process. And what happens is those enzymes tend to break down things that don't belong. Once they've digested the food, they're available to break down things that don't belong in the system. And so we see all kinds of changes happen when people enter into that. And, of course, when you build your vitality with a higher dietary regimen than the SAD diet. There's one diet on the planet that is consistently proven to kill people prematurely and in very painful ways, and only one on the planet that does this. People who come from all over the world to eat the SAD diet. And we're talking about, the Eskimos in Alaska that eat on whale blubber do well. The Mexicans who eat rice and beans do well. The Italians who do lots of pasta and wine and cheese and all that stuff do well on their diets. All these diets from around the world, virtually everybody who comes to America and adapts the SAD, Standard American Diet, dies a premature, painful death. It has a lot to do with, I think, the media that brainwashes us and programs us with fear. I have a a little challenge that I invite people to engage in if they think that there is no conspiracy, that those people who believe in conspiracies are conspiracy nuts. The people who are doing conspiracy want us to think that anybody who catches them is a conspiracy nut. But we have an easy piece of research you can do for yourself, and I guarantee 100% of the time the result will be precisely the same. 100% of the results are identical with this piece of research that you can do yourself today and prove this to yourself. And what we invite you to do is to sit down in front of your television set, turn it on with your remote control, spend no more than 3 minutes on any channel, and just flip from station to station to station to station. And guess what you're going to find? Here's the drill. Take a piece of paper, put a 1/4-inch margin down the left side of the page. Every time as you flip from station to station, no more than 3 minutes on a channel, you hear a word that's based in hostility or fear, put a check mark on the page. Every time that you hear a word that truly represents human life, that active, awesome presence of love that the newborn is, put a check mark in the 1/4-inch margin. You will fill pages and pages and pages of words based in hostility and fear before you fill one column checks of words based in love. Now, if you go back to the man named Yeshua who understood the physics of physiology and the power of words to organize, listen to that word, organize, turn into organic structure, he says the power of life and death is in your words. If you are eating the SAD diet, the standard American diet, if you are using the standard words of the culture, oh, that kills me. Oh, that's to die for. Oh, I can't stand that. Oh, I can't stomach that. Be careful. Don't fall down those steps and break your neck. You know, Yeshua says every idle word will be accounted for. Every word you speak is a frequency. You are a frequency being. If you get lost in the brainwash of hostility or fear of the culture and you lose contact with your human life, then you will die a very painful, premature death. It's just as night follows day, it's just as predictable. Unless you happen to have a very high-level constitution. If you've got a very powerful constitution, then you can do all those things with the culture, like, great-grandpa did, and he smoked, and he drank, and, he ate all the junk in the world, and he lived to be 95. But great-grandpa had a constitution that he could handle that with. But over the years of doing that, his constitution deteriorated, and his sons and his daughters inherited a weaker constitution. They can't do what great-grandpa did. And their weakened constitution will leave them, if they continue in the SAD diet and the standard words of the culture, then that daughter and that son will probably have some form of degenerative disease by the age of 55 or 60. And if they continue with that and they bring a child into the world that continues with the SAD diet and the SAD words, then that child will degenerate on another level, and they'll be lucky to make it past 30 before the degenerative disease hits them. How many kids are we seeing? Young athletes who are out there on the football field, out there on the basketball court, who are in great shape, and they fall over dead. There's a reason. We can't say anymore, oh, we don't know why that happened. Now, if you break down the word diagnose, the culture lives in a state of such extreme denial that we have this thing called diagnosis. And if you break that word down, an agnostic is someone who doesn't know, and a dyad is two. Diagnose is two who don't know. Well, we're trained to prescribe a chemical that will hopefully produce some sort of positive result in your body. Of course, we know that it's a poison, that if we put it into a healthy body, it'll make the healthy body sick. But we're going to pretend that if you put it into a sick body, it'll make your sick body well. So we'll give you this pill. Folks, we need to wake up. We need to start to become our own primary health care providers. We need to start to understand how the game works. We need to understand how our physiology, our minds, our emotions, our relationships, our finances, our businesses, our families, our community, our world, all operates by law. And law is not something that there's some superior up there that says, I'm going to strike you with a bolt of lightning and send you to hell if you don't. Law, in the ancient Aramaic, is simply something that happens. You can't violate a law, you can't break a law. Men make rules, call them laws, and you can break those. You know, the speed limit is 60, you do 70. You broke the law. But in terms of the eternal laws, you can't break them. It's not possible because law is nothing to be obeyed. There's nobody saying, you better do it my way. Law is just a result of the eternal forces, and it's how it works. You know, the law of gravity doesn't care whether you step off the cliff or not. There's no punishment 2,000 feet down. When bones break, bones just break. That's how the law just works. Somebody who designs and flies an airplane doesn't fly an airplane by breaking the law of gravity. They fly an airplane by honoring the law of gravity. We do a whole 16-day intensive called Laws of Living. I'm actually looking at and thinking about seeing if there's a way we can do that online somehow as a webinar. But this whole idea of laws of living is that when you understand how gravity works, you get to fly planes or you get to have bones break at the bottom of the cliff. When you understand the laws as they operate in every dimension, you no longer get bumped and bruised and beaten and diseased by avoidable collisions with law. You understand how the law works. You understand how your structure works and what it's designed for nutritionally. That's part of laws of living. You understand how your relationships work and how they're designed to operate. That's part of laws of living. You understand how the social universe works. That's part of laws of living. And there's a way, there's a lawful process by which you maintain a human life. You live as this awesome active presence of love, and instead of being brainwashed into thinking it's outside of you and going and selling your soul for a little bit of approval, which you call love, you recover from that insanity, you clean out from your mind, and you know how the law works, and you just function within it. You honor it, and when you honor it, you do well. Laws cannot be broken. It's not possible. But we are broken when we come into avoidable collision with those laws. The law itself sustains no fracture. When you understand how the game works, then you work within it. That's all. And forgiveness is one of the key components of the whole process. Because if there's a part of you, through your genetics or through your culture, through your family system, that has been brainwashed to become a violator of the way the energy system works, then you will find out how the energy system works. You will be able to see how you violated the energy system, and you'll be able to go back into harmony with it. And guess what happens? You heal physically, mentally, emotionally, relationship, financially, community, world. That's why we're inviting you to be part of the team that changed the world. That's why we're inviting you to pick up the forgiveness process. Start hitting the delete key on everything unlawful in you. Anything that comes from hostility or fear is out of harmony with the law, which keeps the human organism in a synchronous, healthy state. Begin to forgive those things instead of blaming others for the fact that they're in you, and the whole game changes. Does that kind of address what you were thinking of, Dr. Tim?
Very nicely. Very nicely.
Any other thoughts in that regard?
Well, just that we get lots and lots of comments in the group of this happening on a smaller scale, so that people who have been experiencing many-year difficulties in family relationships, and they come into the support group and they start watching the videos and understanding how it works and actually doing some worksheets and applying it to their life, and then they have a family reunion they go to or a big family party, and they come back to the group and report, you wouldn't believe how these people have changed. And in essence, the whole interaction has changed between the group member who's been doing their work and family and friends and other people we interact with, because we show up as different people. Our energy is different, and it affects the interaction. It's not going to heal somebody else, but it opens the space for them to be different when we aren't as angry and defensive and bitter and judging. And so on a regular basis in the support group, we hear testimonials of this on a smaller scale. And the idea is it works on that scale and on larger scales. The more people we get to do this, and use anger and fear and pain as the alarm system they're intended to be, rather than the trigger to blame others, then we're going to see results we could never dream of.
One of the other results that I've observed over the years, Dr. Tim, is as people start to understand the power of their words, their thoughts, their feelings, their behaviors, and change them, and they go to the family reunion, they're like, oh, my God, you wouldn't believe how these people talk. And, of course, there was, when the speech is unconscious, there's no awareness of what's happening. But once you build the brain cells for it and you listen and you go, oh, I couldn't believe the conversation that such and such was having with such and such. And I can remember when I used to talk like that, and it's like, now that I understand the energy of it, I can feel the energy of it. Wow, am I ever glad I don't do that anymore. Am I ever glad that I've removed that from my structure. And then that person starts to become a catalyst. They hold the space. They become the space. Kind of in our analogy of the family watching the movie, that they become the space that starts to mute and dampen the interference patterns of hostility or fear throughout the whole family system. And you see whole family system changes. And it all becomes a different game. It becomes a whole different process.
Yes, indeed.
So, Jeanie, anything else happening in the chat room? Any callers? Our calling number, we've just got a few minutes left now. Our calling number is 646-200-4169.
No, there's no questions. There's some conversation about the person said that, it was difficult for them to do fasting. And one of the things I suggest is have somebody with you, because I know that when we did the 40-day fast, about day 23 I would have quit if it hadn't been for you being there doing it too. So having someone fasting with you and kind of supporting each other, and when stuff starts to come up, as you're more vital, then, you got to face more things, and that's when you want to quit fasting and go back to eating because it helps push it back down. Organic is definitely the best, as raw as possible. And then Peacemaker says, funny thing is some people have taught themselves to fear the word organic. It's actually removing the man-made chemicals that make you stay hungry. But anyway, we're down to about 2 minutes. Nobody has their hand up.
Well, we're delighted that you're each with us, and Jeanie and I are going to be heading, as soon as we finish this 17-day intensive, we're going to be heading up to Canada and then moving west from there. We haven't exactly determined our direction yet, and we're just kind of sitting back looking at the invitations that we have. So if you have a space you'd like us to come and you're up in the northwest or west heading that direction, Colorado, we're kind of open as to how our tour is going to go, and then we'll probably go across the northern route and then come back through the south on our way back into next fall, or next spring, pardon me. So if you have a venue that you'd like to invite us to, our commitment, what we're working toward doing is bringing these tools to every mind, heart, being on the planet. Invite us. Let us know what your venue looks like in terms of numbers of people, publicity possible, size of the city, and we'll, to the rest of our ability, include you in our circle, in our travel and tour. And when we do that, we pay our own expenses, and 99% of the workshops are free. It's one workshop we do charge a fee for. It's an all-day intensive type workshop, but otherwise all of our other workshops are free. And we would be delighted if we can work it into our travels to come to your city and support you in the process of learning forgiveness and integrating all of the tools. And we've got about 40 different identifiable tools that we teach how to heal and to open this space for healing ourselves, each other, and the planet. By so doing, help the whole planet to create the best year yet, return lives. Hold that for you too. Bring a stranger to the show. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie, who present the internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeanie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.